Hello and welcome to Week in One. In the next half hour, we'll wrap the big news stories of the past week. I'm Den Moyane. Our top story this week, of course, the Oscar Pistorius sentencing hearing, which started on Monday. On Wednesday, after 46 days in court, we finally heard from the Steenkamp family. Riva's cousin, Kim Martin, told the court how devastating Riva's death had been to her family.
The radio DJ came on. And he said, breaking news, not confirmed. And he kept on saying that. He said it about 4 or 5 times. And I remember thinking, this must be big, and would he just hurry up and get on with it? And I still said to my husband, oh, just spit it out. And then he said, Oscar Pistorius. And I remember the minute he said his name, I jumped up in the front seat. And I froze, and the next words were, allegedly shot his girlfriend. And I remember saying to my husband, I hope to God he is cheating on Riva.
This was the moment that shook Kim Martin's world. She heard on the radio that her beloved cousin, Riva, was dead. Martin described Steenkamp as a loving person who was adored by her family. Although they struggled financially, her parents made up for it by doting on their daughter. News that she died at the hands of her lover caused the family to fall apart.
Please just tell me, are you sure it's Riva? And she said, yes, I'm sorry it is. Because I spoke to Auntie June this morning. Spoke to Auntie June now. And that was for me, the end of the world.
Earlier in the day, Pistorius' uncle Arnold hugged Barry Steenkamp in court in an attempt to reach out to the grief-stricken family. 2 families have been left devastated by the events of Valentine's Day 2013. But how each believe this court can help them find closure is arguably miles apart. Pagamile Hlubi, Pretoria.
The defense argued in mitigation of sentence during the first 2 days of the hearing. They called 3 witnesses, all of them recommending house arrest.
If Oscar Pistorius goes to prison, it will break him. That's according to Annette Vergeer, a probation officer. Her recommendation, a suspended sentence with correctional supervision.
His rehabilitation has a far better chance of success in these circumstances through correctional supervision than in prison.
Vergeer provides the courts with pre-sentencing reports. She's employed by Pistorius' defense team and is testifying in her private capacity. The probation officer believes that prison conditions are not conducive to rehabilitation. She's also worried that Pistorius' disability will make him vulnerable to attacks. But the prosecution says she's basing her report on wrong information.
So, this you got from the internet, that retired Judge Fagan said that the circumstances in some of the prisons are so poor that 101 detained prisoners have to share a cell originally intended for 38.
That is correct, my lady.
Now, that clearly deals with awaiting trial, because that would not be the position with sentenced prisoners, you know that.
I take note thereof, my lady.
Do you perhaps have this website address for us so that we can go see what is on this website address?
No, but I can try to obtain it for the Honourable Court.
Vergeer also claims that Pistorius has been making monthly payments to the Steenkamp family. It turns out that the parents of the model did receive money from him, an amount of 108,000 rand. They did so because of financial constraints and intend paying the money back.
On Thursday, the state called a senior correctional services official to address concerns that our prisons are not equipped to accommodate the double amputee.
The defense has argued that as a double amputee, Oscar Pistorius would be an easy target. The court heard that gang leader Khalil Sabji of the feared 26ers gang in Pretoria's Kgosi Mampuru prison has reportedly threatened the athlete. It's the same facility where Pistorius could serve his time. But a senior prison official said conditions in jail were the same everywhere in the world.
We have with a team, also visited UK prisons and also visited in the USA, including Brazil, in South America. My lady, there are three things that are common: gangsterism, overcrowding, and unauthorized items in our facilities.
Modisa also said the athlete would be held in the prison's hospital section. There was high drama on the sidelines of the trial when Pistorius' sister, Ame, burst into tears during the lunch break. An associate of self-confessed hitman Mikey Schultz allegedly swore at her. The defense apparently then accused Schultz and his associates of intimidation and requested that they not be allowed back in court. Schultz has denied any wrongdoing. The incident reportedly happened after Ame asked his group to move from a bench reserved for the Pistorius family.
Now, Judge Thokozile Masipa is expected to hand down sentence next week. We're going to Cape Town now, where the Shireen Dewani trial continued on Monday and Tuesday. Dewani is accused of orchestrating the murder of his bride, Annie, while on honeymoon in 2010. Much of the state's case has focused on Dewani's sexuality, but this week they suffered a setback in their case against the British businessman.
Mark Roberts was tipped to be one of the state's star witnesses and was expected to drop a bombshell about Shireen Dewani's secret gay life. Roberts works for Britain's National Cybercrime Unit. He had access to Dewani's laptop, which allegedly contained emails with explicit sexual content, some sent before Dewani met his bride. But Judge Jeanette Traverso shut down the evidence as irrelevant. The state doesn't seem fazed, though.
What we wanted to show was the conflict in his sexuality. And I don't think that, without getting into what the strategy is going to be, there are other witnesses.
Proceedings have been adjourned until Monday for the return of State Prosecutor Shireen Riley, who's on sick leave. This is the longest and possibly most significant delay in the trial after Judge Jeanette Traverso warned that the trial needs to proceed speedily. Her ruling against the admissibility of evidence relating to Dewani's sexuality has dealt a major blow in the state's quest to prove a motive. Now the state will have to revisit its strategy if it wants to satisfy the court of Dewani's guilt. Leanne Jansen at the Western Cape High Court.
Across to London now for another court case that will be closely watched here in South Africa. Tanya Clarence has pleaded guilty to manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility. The 42-year-old South African was charged with murdering her 4-year-old daughter Olivia and 3-year-old twins Ben and Max in April this year. ENCA's Ollie Barrett was at London's Old Bailey for the hearing.
Tanya Clarence's husband Gary arriving at court for a hearing his wife did not attend. The Crown Prosecution Service has decided to accept her manslaughter pleas on the grounds of diminished responsibility. The prosecution told the Old Bailey they accepted that Tanya Clarence was unable to form rational judgment at the time of the 3 killings, and they accepted that she smothered them because she was depressed and wanted to end their suffering. The court also heard Tanya Clarence could not see any way out. Tanya Clarence's legal team said inside the Old Bailey that this was a truly tragic case. They also said that the burden that she faced was of a quite extraordinary degree and that burden turned out to be overwhelming. They say that her suicide attempt was real, that she bitterly regrets her actions. And the defence team believe that a just and compassionate sentence would be a hospital order. Gary Clarence was in South Africa with his eldest child when he heard his 3 other children had been killed at the family home in New Malden. They suffered from the life-limiting condition type 2 spinal muscular atrophy. Tanya Clarence was treated in hospital after her suicide attempt and has spent most of the time since the April killings being treated at a mental health facility. She'll be sentenced for the manslaughter of her 3 children on November the 14th. Ollie Barrett at the Old Bailey, London.
ENCA reporters exposed the plight of hundreds of suspected illegal immigrants. And another Mandela scandal is brewing. Those stories and more coming up.